Go. Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of RPM, the Red Peace Machine. As always, it is May 16th, Sunday, May 16th, and will be slightly stormy today.
Ooh, is that figurative?
Wow. How are folks doing? Susie, how are you today?
I am doing okay. Thank you for asking.
All right, that's okay with
I'm
an
fine.
asterisk.
Thank you. Let's move on.
That's okay with a footnote. All right. Doctors Madanini and Casagrande, how are the two of you?
Good. Yeah, there's been some drama in our lives for the last few hours, but things are good. Things are fine.
I think one of the lessons I'm trying to figure out is how to live. Like, I don't think I've ever figured that out.
Oh my god.
How do I live? Have y'all figured it out?
They didn't give you the little booklet after graduation?
There was no booklet.
Here you go.
I hear there's a little red pamphlet somewhere.
Infographic. There's an infographic.
I want to cut to that. I want to cut to that video, Roy. When you edit this, Roy Woody, how do I live?
How do I live without you? Oh man,
It'd be beautiful. I think that's the thing, right? We've been trying to all figure out for roughly 50 years.
Yeah,
I think.
Same here.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing. Well, okay, no, not that long. I think I've been actually trying to figure out how to live for 30 years, maybe. When did I really start? Let's be honest. When did I really start?
That's the real question.
Maybe 18, 19 years old, maybe. I think that's when I probably really started questioning what's going on. Mm-hmm. And by way of music, not I think that was my jump in was music. Mm-hmm. And then well, maybe books, like Where the Red Fern Grows, stuff like that. And that got me in touch with I guess that's why I feel this way about that.
For me it was Dune.
Well, mine was Jaws. Okay.
Oh dang.
I was about 7.
Oh, we're talking about that Exorcist.
Yeah. Dang.
Do you have any advice for 7-year-old Susie Sheeler watching Jaws for the first time and coming into her awakening? What is your life advice?
Oh, stay out of the water. Stay out of the water.
To this day, I don't like swimming pools.
Yeah. Make sure the water's clear before you step in.
So I can see it coming? What?
The water is never clear on the Texas coast, Roy Woody. What are we doing?
I love when people... This whole group wanted to go have a white party down there, and I was like, I wouldn't wear anything white down there.
On a Texas
ever.
Beach?
No. Oh my god.
Come back with oil slick stains. Oh my god.
Definitely don't drink the water.
No, don't get in it.
Don't open your mouth when you're swimming off the shore of Texas.
We got Gulf. Right. We got some Gulf shrimp for you. No, I don't want to eat mercury.
Well, as long as you put Cajun seasoning on it, it's
deep fry the fuck out of it.
Yeah. Why do you think it's called blackened?
Yeah, that's right.
All right, Roy Woody, how are you today? Tell us.
Doing well. Just another chilling weekend. Volunteered, of course, that yesterday, and then today just chill.
You are like the volunteer machine. Mm-hmm. Making the world a better place.
Thank you. We're always doing something. Yesterday we did with Dev Valley Community Coalition. We helped put on another vaccination clinic for folks in the community. So we had 215 people came out yesterday to get vaccinated. Either they're getting their second dose or their first dose. So. Mm-hmm. A lot of people. Yeah. And then it was also introduced the 12 to 15. So a lot of kids too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look up to you so much for doing that. I really do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My wife's the one that
No,
organized it all. My wife Susanna organized it all.
Well, thank both of you very much for doing that.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I just said thank you.
Roy Woody, all your efforts to make Texas a better place, how do they fare up against the evil stuff coming out of the legislature consistently?
Oh, I know. God, some of these bills, like I saw one of the ones where they want to ban talking about, was it racism or like
racism and
out of
sexism.
classrooms?
Yeah.
Racism and sexism out of classrooms. Like, what's up with that?
Well, why should you talk about something that doesn't exist?
Exactly. That's just perpetuating a lie.
Exactly.
Lying.
It's just fake news. There's no racism or sexism anywhere in Texas. We are truly enlightened God's children. And it's incredible that these evil people want to talk about it.
So true. Barbara Jordan. How many black people do I need to name? We are not racist.
I'm not racist.
How much further does that list go, though?
I'm done.
Yeah.
One and done.
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. These bills, the Republican Party in Texas and in other red states, but especially here, I spend a lot of time on what I call I wish lists, the trigger laws that we have on the books, and we have so many, including laws that still say that homosexuality is illegal, and the abortion laws that we have on the books that say, like the one that's in the House now that just are going to the Senate, I guess, is the heartbeat bill. That says if you can detect a heartbeat, you can't abort the tissue that's in your body. So,
which, by the way, is like 5.5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't
even know you're pregnant.
You're pregnant half the time at that point.
Exactly. And it's and that's an unconstitutional law. But we have these people working to put this on the books of the Texas the law books here, so that when they assume Roe v. Wade is overturned, these laws will instantly go into effect, which means that anyone who gets an abortion, and these are also laws, anyone who takes you to get an abortion, anyone who performs the abortion can and will be prosecuted immediately. There won't be any 60 days. It will go into effect immediately because it's on the books already. So I feel like our government spends like 90% of its time on laws that aren't laws.
Yeah,
that are
and I think that's not accidental. I think it is, a pretty it's a good distraction, right? So if we have these laws taking place and we can pass these sort of symbolic gestures that don't have any teeth, that won't hold up or whatever else, then we can continue on with the real project and the real work of providing subsidies to the same oil and gas companies that are dumping it into my Gulf, or continuing neoliberalization in like schools and universities, all of this kind of stuff. And we can pretend that doing government work and the stuff that you're voting on is this really, really narrow scope of these abortion laws without teeth, or these sort of culture war kind of laws.
And also, people, I think, need to remember that the Texas legislature meets 140 days every 2 years. So it meets in spring of odd numbered years. So it's this spring, right? This is our legislative session. And then for the first 60 days, they're not allowed to actually pass any bills. The next 20 days are only allowed to pass the bills that the governor presented. So the only time that they can pass any bills is the last 60 days. So technically, the 2,400 or whatever the final number of bills that get passed were passed in a 60-day period, which means that what is that, 40 a day? Now, it's true that they work 24 hours a day in that last 60 days, especially the last 10, because, right, they're trying to knock all all the bills out that they can, and they run out of time. So, you know, if there's 10 bills, I'm making this number up. There's 10, they've knocked out 30 bills that day. There's 10 left, but they've got 5 minutes to do it. They're just rushing through and trying to get them passed. And of course, there's no time to read all the bills. So the way that they know what bills to pass is the lobbyists come by and hand them lists. This is what my client would like to see you vote yes on, vote no on. And so what ends up happening is the really important bills, like the deregulation bills and the subsidy bills and the bills that actually really matter, get no attention whatsoever. And then they focus instead, like Ramesh said, on and Susie has pointed out, these distraction bills, which are their sole goal is to ramp up their voter base with fear and hate. And then, but they are substance free. Like abortions are going to happen. So banning abortion doesn't do anything to limit the number of abortions. In fact, in the places where abortions are difficult to access or illegal, they have the highest abortion rates on the planet. So if you actually hated abortion, you would legalize abortion. And so the irony of all of this is when the earth is, our infrastructure is literally collapsing, right? The bridge over the Mississippi that broke. Don't worry, it's I-40, right? I think it's I-40. It's just a major interstate. Yeah. Who cares? And our infrastructure is breaking. The planet is overheating. The world is going fascist. Our economy is unraveling. We're in the middle of a pandemic that should have been beaten down a year ago. And what are they focused on? We need to shut professors up in the classroom. We need to,
and teachers now.
Yeah, and teachers now. We need to ban abortion. We need to make sure that brown and black people can't vote, that poor people can't vote. Like, I mean, right? This is insane. And then here's the other thing, the demographics. If I was a white person right now in the legislature, my only goal would be to pass every minority protection law imaginable, because it's either this year or next year, the Mexican population in Texas will actually exceed the white population. They won't be the majority yet, but whites will no longer be the largest minority. Mm-hmm. And you would think if you were a rational human being, you'd be like, I see where this is going with our negative population growth. We need to protect ourselves. Instead, they're trying to reintroduce Jim Crow.
Well, but also, okay, so I don't know if you've noticed in the last few years when you've gone to the doctor's office and you have to choose a race, that it's Hispanic/white. It's not just white anymore. So
because Hispanic was originally white. And what happened, so when Brown versus Board of Education happened, the whites went, oh, cool. What we'll do is we'll desegregate the Latinx schools with the black schools, and then that way we'll have desegregation. And so the Latinx population said, screw you. We're not white. We want our own category. And that's how the Hispanic category was created. It was to prevent white people from using the Latinx population to desegregate.
And so, but now they're using it, right? So that they can bump up their numbers?
I mean, I don't think anybody buys that, because if a Latinx person is walking down the street, they might put that they're Latinx and white instead of Latinx in India, which is what they are. Almost certainly, right? I mean, obviously Argentinians are white, but you know, like Mexicans are Indio. They're mestizo in Indio. But the majority of Mexican Americans put Latinx and white because they're aspiring to whiteness. They want that privilege. But when a white person walks down the street, they don't go, oh, look at that white dude.
Yeah.
You aspire all you want.
They do that. Is that what you're saying?
The white people don't see the Latinx population and say they're white.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And then when you see your name, they're not going to go, oh, I bet they're white. Rodriguez, right. That's a white name.
Yeah. Roy Woody, how are you feeling in hearing this?
Oh yeah, it's like, yeah, definitely with the the white and the tying it together with the Hispanic. It's like my wife has kind of talked about it with her family, where they kind of like tried, some of the family tried to, like, way back when, whatever, they tried to get away from their Mexican heritage and move more to, kind of leaving that behind, which was kind of interesting. So yeah, she's talked about that too.
Yeah. So I'm unaware actually when it comes to these like pieces of legislation that are limiting speech for professors and for teachers. Is there any ability for them to actually limit speech? I guess for teachers, yes, but for professors, can they truly limit what you're able to say in a classroom? Or like is funding
That's
tied
a
to
yes.
What? How?
They get rid of you.
Best they get fired, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they have tenure review at UT. I mean, they can fire tenured professors. So the answer is
Or no, on a state level though, like this state level legislation, what is the mechanism of action in its disciplining of our teachers and professors?
I don't know how they would enforce it necessarily, but here's what I think. What this is a scenario that might pop up. A professor says something or a teacher says something in classroom, a Trumpkin student freaks out because they can't stand facts, right? Because it's a post-fact
It triggers them. It
triggers them, and their unique snowflakiness implodes on them. So they go rat you out, right? And they're like, but to their legislator, not to the dean, not to your principal, whatever. They go to the legislator and they go, this guy's a communist, fascist, atheist, Christian fanatic trying to destroy America. And then that legislator would go after you. But I think the ACLU would step in, and this would be a really interesting Supreme Court case. So I don't know how they would pull this off long term, but you don't want to be that guy. You're going to be eating your liver about whether you're going to have a job tomorrow. The institution you work for is going to be freaked out the whole time because they're thinking the legislature is going to cut our funding. And so if you don't want to be that person that got the crosshair stuck on your forehead.
Yeah.
And my experience has been that most professors, even tenured professors, are little cowards, and they will just run and hide in the corner.
This is in my eyes, what this is doing is keeping potential BIPOC professors out of the profession. It's just maintaining and even maintaining whiteness in academia and making it even more white.
And sexism, because how many women want to take on the issue of feminist studies? And now,
because
how do tenured professors get fired? What is the point of? I don't understand.
I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think what they're going to do is they're going to cut funding to schools that have critical race classes and feminism courses. And they're going to say, look, you can have those classes and those professors can teach this, but we're not going to fund it.
There are so many ways. There are so many ways that departments can get squeezed. Professors don't get funding. They don't get professional development money. They don't get, they feel will constantly feel left, even if they are tenured, if the professors are tenured. If you professor egos are super inflated, so to constantly get nicked that way when compared to your comrades is a thing. Oh my god, it's like
total
raining.
downpour.
It's raining hard here.
Wow, really?
Also, there's I
was going to finish the thought that what happens is that the university that I taught, this is what happened to this brilliant, actually nationally renowned feminist professor. And she just left. She was like, I've had enough. 10 years, I think more than 10 years of fighting a mostly male, or there was one woman who was kind of in the leadership, but she was just she was like, I'm out of here, I'm done. If you are constantly fighting for every single scrap, you're like, it just gets to you after a while.
It does. Yeah.
So Tennessee State University.
So the money, basically her mind space was devoted to it was devoted to fighting scarcity as opposed to doing what she's supposed to do, which is being
a teacher.
The genius she really was, because she is.
Yeah. This reminds me a little of the restriction on supporting BDS for folks who were
Absolutely.
yeah. Does someone want to take us back there and give us a little bit of a review?
Oh, what was her name? Talking about the one here in Texas, right?
Yeah.
So we talking about
Yeah,
what was her name?
Bahia Maui.
Is that it?
Wait, who was it?
She was Palestinian American who.
Oh, yeah, she's a buddy. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can hear more about this story on
On
season
an episode
1
of
of
I Am.
I Am, the defining moment.
Yeah. Bahia Amawi.
That's it.
Yeah, Bahia Amawi. Yeah, so she is a special education teacher, speech pathologist, actually. Sorry,
Yeah.
she's a speech pathologist in Pflugerville. And they made it so that starting, I think it was 2018 or 2018, I think.
Yeah.
She had to sign a contract. And one of the stipulations in her Pflugerville ISD contract was that I don't remember exactly the wording, but that she was against BDS, which is boycott, divestment, and sanctioning the state of Israel. And she's like, I'm not signing this. I'm not signing this. They literally didn't give her the job. They were like, okay, well, if you can't sign
They
it,
terminated her.
they terminated her. And these jobs, these teaching jobs are year to year. Every year we have to sign a contract. So
How is that legal? I mean,
Wow.
So the United States,
This is
you're
Texas.
yeah. I mean, you
Okay,
can
no,
say
no,
anything you
I'm
want so long
general.
as it's what we told you to say.
Mhm.
There is no freedom of speech. It is a total illusion. The only what?
Yeah. No, I was just going to transition. Yeah, it's a total illusion. And when we look at coverage of Palestinian issues in the past week, I think we can start to see that illusion break a little bit. Tell us more about that. What have y'all been seeing in your coverage of Palestine?
yes, and
But
also
I'll let Roy finish his thought. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to add that Bahia is Palestinian. That was an important little piece of information.
Well, but, okay, should it, but that I really don't. They didn't ask anybody else to sign that, though.
No,
No, everybody has to sign it.
Everybody has it.
Okay,
Yeah, everyone.
so everybody has to. I would not have signed that.
No, but the fact is,
But then you don't have a job.
how fucking random is it that in Pflugerville ISD you are asked to sign an anti-BDS clause?
Exactly.
Like,
No, it's fine.
all the things in this
agree.
world.
Do you know of other school districts in Texas? Were all school districts in Texas? Was this something they did, or was this just randomly Pflugerville?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the
don't know
point.
on
I'm
that.
just wondering if this was
It was not randomly Pflugerville. It was one of these pieces of legislation. What did you call them? I wish legislations, right?
Oh,
It was one of these.
okay.
So in order to have a contract with, I think, public school districts in the state of Texas, you had to publicly disclaim that you would not participate with BDS in any way.
Jesus Christ.
Think
I mean,
about
I
that.
just
Yeah,
don't-
the restriction on free speech that way. Corporate speech is okay. Spending of funds is free speech and free speech protected, but apparently not BDS in this context, until, of course, the courts found in Bahia's favor, right?
Yeah, they voted in Bahia's favor. Absolutely.
And so was she reinstated?
Yes.
And did she go back to work, or did she
Yes.
say no?
Yes, she did.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
but why BDS? Why was BDS targeted?
before we transition to that,
Palestine?
because
Why-
you need to, but I want to point one more thing out. Texas State, Texas State, that's in Houston. I meant Tennessee State. They're both TSU. Tennessee State University just did an audit of itself, of its finances. And for the record, it's an HBCU, just like TSU in Houston. So both TSUs are HBCUs. And what they found was they were missing, you ready? Over 50 years, $1.5 billion. They were missing $500 million of funding over the course of a 50-year span of time. I mean, that's not a small chunk of change for a school that size, obviously. And here's what happened. So when Brown versus Board of Education went down, basically it now became unconstitutional to have state funding go in a different amount for white schools than black schools. So what the state legislatures did in the South, because we got to remember most HBCUs are in the South, not all, but most. And so what the state legislatures did in the South was they figured out a way to create the most racist criteria for funding the schools so that they would end up underfunding the black schools anyway. And so now the question is, how many more of these black schools were cheated out of funding from the state in this racist manner? And you know, like, this has been going on. Brown versus Board of Education was 1954. This has been going on for decades now. And so the fact of the matter is something like what the state legislature is trying to pass now, that's normal operating procedure for the South. This is what the South does. The South is all about crushing freedom of speech and attacking black and brown communities. This is our legacy. Nothing has changed. We still have a bunch of Jim Crow assholes. So the legislation that was going through, I don't know if we talked about this. I'm having a deja vu moment. The legislation that was going through, I think I just talked about it in my classroom, but so stop me if we already covered this, to create the Jim Crow voting laws in Texas. We're talking about purity of the vote. Purity of the vote is the language that's in the 1875 Constitution that was implemented in a coup d'etat in 1876, and then was used as the justification for creating things like the all-white primary in 1935. And so the reality is they're going back to old Jim Crow language to implement this. Now they pulled that language out because a Democrat stood up and said, "You do realize this language is extraordinarily racist." Why?
He was all like,
leave it to the Democrats to care about the language used rather than the substance of the
pass the law. Well, holy crap, are you sure you want to be wearing that hood with the holes in it? For your eyes? Take the hood off at least.
But I loved what the guy said in return. He was like, "Oh no, I didn't know that. That's unfortunate."
Yeah. I didn't mean to openly be racist. I meant to be secretly racist.
Going back to what you said, you know, about substance over actual word. I feel like the Republicans actually know what words do mean, and they use them very effectively. He knew what that word meant.
He did.
Whoever wrote that speech knew what that word meant.
That's an all dog whistling. Yeah, totally.
Especially because there's the whole purity of the white race legacy that the South holds on to. So purity of the white race, purity of the vote, like, it's loaded.
They know exactly what to say to send us off. They know exactly what to say to get their base riled up, and we react. You can't.
Did we talk about your 1872 article that you found, Ramesh, where it said what's with all these vagrants living in Austin?
Oh, I don't know if we talked about that.
No, I don't think we did. So when you sent that, my mind popped, because you have to remember that the Reconstruction ended in 1876. So this is 4 years before Reconstruction ended. And so what happened was Black people were pouring into Austin. So Austin is the only major city in the United States with negative Black population growth. But in the 1870s, Black people were pouring into Austin. Austin was like the major Black city in Texas. So even though Texas is 12% Black, Austin is 5% Black today, back then, this was a huge place for the Black population because it's the headquarters of the Yankee Army. So Black people knew they could get protection during Reconstruction by being here. So when that article about vagrancy, that was code.
Wow.
That was code for, look at all these Black people in this city.
Wait, can somebody read that article, please?
Let me see if I can find it while Roy continues to speak.
So then once Reconstruction ends in 1876, so that the Republicans can cheat and steal the election, right? The Democrat won, the Republicans stole the election in 1876. The deal that they made with the South to pull off the stolen election, so the South would go along with it. Louisiana, South Carolina, and Florida magically voted Republican 16 years after they left the Union because a Republican was elected president.
Yeah.
And the reason that the payoff was Reconstruction would be ended.
Yeah. So it reads, this is in the predecessor to the Austin American Statesman. It reads, has the city an ordinance against vagrancy? If not, one should be passed and rigidly enforced. There are numbers of idle, ragged, shiftless Negroes who congregate on the street corners, loaf around all day, and prowl and steal at night, who, if driven out of the city and forced into the country as tillers of the soil, would add to the wealth and productiveness of the country.
So for the record, we did pass a vagrancy law. And what we did was we mass re-enslaved the Black population. There's a neighborhood in Austin called, or there's a road called Convict Hill. The neighborhood is Oak Hill. And we set up a quarry there and we forced the Black population to mine the limestone to build our city.
Oh my God.
That's right. Yeah.
What was
The Capitol
that
building.
published?
And then we purged the 5 Black towns that were west of what is now I-35. So they were Kitchenville, Clarksville. Those used to all be Black towns. We purged it and then brought in the white population, recolonized it, and forced the Black population to move to the other side of I-35. Like our city is loaded with nasty racist history.
Yeah.
It was east of Congress.
Is that what the original line was?
Yeah. 35 just came along.
And later on, exactly. Yeah.
What was that published in, Ramesh?
Austin American Statesman?
Well, the predecessor.
The predecessor, it has some other name though. I'll find it.
It was an Austin paper?
It was an Austin paper, yeah.
So when you say you think it was a, well, no, it was a message. What were you going to say?
It's the Austin Democratic Statesman on February 15th, 1872.
Okay. So, and does it say who wrote it?
No, it doesn't there in the little clip that I have, at least.
That's so interesting. Do you think that it was from someone in another town? Or was this, because when did we become the capital?
We were already the capital. We became the capital, and I'm probably going to mess the year up. Let's see, it would be 1841. That doesn't sound right, but yeah, somewhere right around there.
All right. Any final departing thoughts before we wrap up and revisit the many ways in which Texas fucks up?
So we didn't get to Palestine.
we're getting there. We're getting there. This is the transition.
This is a transition. Okay.
We're transitioning.
No, we're good. Let's move on because we only have a few minutes left.
Well, we are talking about moving people, right? Out from where they are. So
it's actually a perfect transition. No wonder we support Israel so strongly.
Birds of a feather. All right. Does someone want to give maybe a 30-second what has been taking place in the past 2 weeks?
Okay, so this whole thing was triggered when a group of Palestinians were evicted from their homes in Jerusalem, so those homes could be turned over to Jewish white colonists, right? And there's no other way to put it. These aren't homes allowed to be turned over to Ethiopian Jewish population. This is white colonists. These are designated for white people, because Israel isn't just anti-Palestinian; it is also extraordinarily racist, and actually has this insane hierarchy on what constitutes a good Jew and a bad Jew. And then even within the white community, the Jewish population is stratified. It's an extremely complicated system, which is really interesting because what it shows is how much the Jewish population in Israel has taken on white racism, and the racism that was aimed at them, the hatred that was aimed at them, they've incorporated it into themselves. So one of the things that we always have to do when we have these conversations is have enormous empathy and sympathy, because this is coming out of trauma, right? They're not evil, they're traumatized, and the damage has created evil outcomes, but it's not coming from a place of they set out to do something terrible. They've just done something terrible from their trauma. And so I think that's important. I think we need to keep checking. Like the Nazis have no excuse. They're just jackasses. We need to have a place in our hearts for them. Having said that, that doesn't make it right? The parent who was abused, who grows up and abuses their kids, is still wrong for abusing their kids. But at least we know, oh, well, there's a cause. In any case, what ends up happening is protests break out to protect the Palestinian family. And so if you live in a place like Jerusalem and you're Palestinian and you have a family of 5, no more than 4 of you can ever leave the house at one time. You need to always leave a person there, because if your house is ever empty, it is gone. You will not ever set foot in it again. There is literally a population of people who watch to see if Palestinians ever vacate their house. And but this is a case where the house wasn't vacant and they're being ejected. Once the protests start, they turn violent.
Can we just stop and notice this for 1 second? To live your life fearing that you're going to be thrown out of your own house that you have lived in generationally for hundreds of years, every day, all the time. Oh my God.
That's terrorism.
Yes. Thank you.
I hear what you're saying too, Roy, and I want to throw it back to you, but I would like to interject that the analogy to an abusive parent, I think, is dead on. I, however, do not have empathy for that parent. And nor do I with Israel, because at some point I think the parent has to grow up and take responsibility for being an adult.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
So I think that parent knows exactly what it's doing. The world has told that parent what it's doing, and it needs to take responsibility. So I don't have empathy for them.
Yeah, I mean, there's therapy, there's AA meetings.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like there's help out there.
So I just don't have. I think Israel needs to stop with the fucking.
I mean, Israel needs to stop 7 decades ago.
Yeah,
it's insane that this has been allowed to go on as long as it has.
Yeah,
especially because the solution is so simple. The solution is so simple. It's already been done. There's another country that's modeling it. It's called South Africa.
Right.
I mean, like, it's not like we have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. So anyway, you were saying, I'm sorry.
So then what happens is when the protests turn violent, and they're violent not because the Palestinians were violent. That's a whole nother conversation about what's happened to Jerusalem. So for what Ramesh has brought up a map where if you look, there's the white and it says West Jerusalem. That was Israel in 48. And then the gray was actually Jordan, because Jordan annexed the West Bank. In 1967, Israel attacked in a preemptive blitzkrieg style attack the Arab world for the 3rd time, where they were the aggressor. And they defeated Egypt, Syria, and Jordan in a 6-day war, which is just, if you hate Egyptians, walk up to them and go, how are those 6 days in 67? Like, they will immediately begin weeping. The trauma of that catastrophe. The Israelis didn't just defeat the military, they were going through the Sinai, massacring villages and slaughtering the Egyptian population because they wanted to keep the Sinai. They wanted to annex it and cause the population to leave like they did with Palestine. In any case, what Israel has done is it's annexed East Jerusalem, because in 48, Jerusalem was split. And what they've been slowly trying to do is absorb that population, absorb that territory from the Palestinian population. You can see where the settlements have gone in, and you can see where the Palestinian communities are. And what they've done is they've done this to the whole West Bank. Like, if we had a West Bank map, there would be these little pink splotches all over the place. What the West Bank now looks like is a giant Swiss cheese,
Yeah.
or I think skin blemish. I just see like a rash, and it's untenable. It's not a usable territory. Like, the people who talk about this 2-state solution are hallucinating. You can't run a state called Palestine under these circumstances. The Palestinians own maybe half the West Bank at this point, if that. It's probably closer to 40%.
Basically, pockets of Palestinians are now living incontiguously from each other.
And go back to the map for a second, because if you go back to the map, you'll see that there's border walls. the Israelis have walled off the
Mhm.
Palestinian communities from their own territory and from each other.
With checkpoints.
And there's checkpoints.
Yeah.
So at one point I counted this. I don't have any idea if this is accurate anymore. It's 10 years old, but the West Bank is 70 miles north-south. So like Houston is 170 miles from Austin,
Right.
for those of you who are Texans and want some kind of perspective. There was 23 checkpoints. And so if you were a Palestinian, you would have to stop your car 23 times to travel the 70 mile. Like how many hours does that take?
And stopping, it's not just stopping, it's humiliation at every step of the way. So we have social anxiety getting on freaking Zoom. Imagining stopping at Yeah.
No, it's too
This
much.
is
My
this is for like you know, like your grandmother trying to go to the hospital, right? Or you know, go to
Yeah.
a checkup or
Oh, yeah.
something, right?
Right.
This is like
Jesus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've seen the pictures of the ambulances stuck,
Yeah.
Stop.
waiting to go
Mhm.
through the checkpoint.
Yeah.
And you know, the person dies. And of course, that's not an accident. That's exactly
No.
the desired outcome.
So my
Um,
very white parents, my mom and my aunt went to Jerusalem. My aunt became a Christian like 15 years ago, and this was a pilgrimage for her. We've discussed the pilgrimage for the white people. But my mom is an atheist, and she went to support my aunt. So they went and they, you know, toured everything. They got on the bus and they went to the Palestinian thing. When they came back, my aunt said, "Oh, they're fine. They've got their own places. It's no big deal. You should see the wonderful things that there are Palestinians who were on our tour bus and they love it there and yada yada yada." And then my mom secretly said, "Those people are treated abysmally. I cannot imagine having to live there like that and being treated like that." And I found it so interesting that they were there at the same time and saw it so differently. How do you s- how do you think that's possible? Is it because one is a Christian and supports Israel and the other sees reality? Is that a possibility? How did they see it so differently? How do some people see it so differently?
I think partly as a function of being a settler colonial state, we have a deep lack of empathy for brown folks and brown folks suffering, right? So I can tolerate death and violence and famine in the third world a lot better than I can in Europe, right? So when Notre Dame burns, I burn with it. But if you know, some sort of site in the third world
The
does,
Sheikh
I don't.
Jarrah, yeah. Yeah. Or if the Al-Aqsa, you know, mosque is burned, you know, who cares? But yeah, you're right. Notre Dame. Oh my gosh, this is historic and
A
horrible.
human tragedy, yeah.
human
Right
trash.
about that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just
But also
So-
people see what they want to see, right? So if I walk up to a person who doesn't believe the earth is a sphere and I present them with information that it is, they'll be like, yeah, I just don't see it. I don't see it. And that's one of the problems is the human mind has filters on it. And people who are unwilling to re-examine their belief system will have those filters up all the time.
it
Yeah.
was shocking to me that it would be so different, that two people who are so close could see something.
This is a problem law enforcement has. A car accident will happen and they'll find 5 witnesses. And one person will say, yeah, it was a semi that hit a red car. And the next person will say it was a motorcycle that hit a scooter. And the cops are tearing their hair out going, oh my God, were you at the same location at the same time?
Exactly.
Who are you?
That's
and-
a good
Yeah,
point.
human
It's-
memory and testimony sucks. We are
Sucks.
terrible about
It's
it.
awful. And it's because we have filters up that are constantly deleting information.
And so that completely explains the bullshit we're in right now with
Absolutely. And then the other thing is you have to be looking in the right spot at the right moment. You know what I mean? Like it's complicated. So not
Yeah.
only do we have these filters up, there's the whole chance part of it too. So after the protests break out, Gaza. So if you look on that map that Ramesh has up, right where it says Ammon Mediterranean, there's a little itty bitty, teeny weeny gray strip. That's the Gaza Strip. If you're an Austinite and you put the very southern tip at the southern tip of the city of Austin, the northern tip is Round Rock. But it's skinnier than Austin. So it's a population of 1.5 million people on an area less than half the size of the city of Austin. And they have to do everything there. They have to do all their agriculture, all their industry, because they don't have any access to anything else. They're under a blockade. Their economy is being crushed. They have 40% unemployment. And the only way they get goods in, including things like cars, is through tunnels that they build into Egypt, that the Israelis and the Egyptians keep blowing up. So Gaza, the Hamas decides we're going to fight for those Palestinian homes in Jerusalem, and they begin launching rockets into Israel. So as a general rule, most rocket fire from the Palestinian population into Israel is completely ineffective. It's just a symbolic terror gesture, right? The goal is to
Iron Dome, right?
Yeah, well, and even before Iron Dome. So I think people get confused. The rockets today are much bigger than they were, say, 20 years ago. The rockets 20 years ago were not any bigger than your hobbyist rocket. And so like the odds of it even hitting something was low. Now today, the Palestinians have bigger rockets because they've decided to fight harder. Well, they have the wherewithal to fight harder. And so once that happens, Israel goes, we're going to go to full-scale war. And whenever Israel does that, what'll end up happening is the Israeli casualties will be like 10 and Palestinians casualties will be like 1,000. And one of the patterns that you will see time after time after time after time is the Israelis will do this right before an election. Whoever the prime minister is will attack Gaza and slaughter Palestinians and then get reelected. So for the background, Israel has just had 4 botched elections. They've all ended in a stalemate. They can't form a new government. So even though Netanyahu is technically in charge, in reality, he's not the legitimate ruler because he hasn't won an election for the term he's in. He's just the de facto ruler.
He's a fascist.
What was going to happen the day after the property was being seized in Jerusalem, you ready? A group of conservatives, some liberals on the left, and Arab Israelis of Arab ethnic origin had enough votes in the Knesset to form the government. So had this land not been seized in Jerusalem, the next day Netanyahu would have been out of a job. There would have been a new prime minister of Israel, and there would have been the first Arab coalition government in Israeli history. And so the timing is like, if you believe in coincidences, oh my God, do I have some amazing land for you, just southeast of Houston, about 100 miles. I would love to sell it to you. It's very wet. So
beautiful clear water. You can see that shark coming right at you.
Yeah, it's a bull shark. It's a bull shark. So in any case, this whole thing erupts, and then to add a whole nother level, which is mind-blowing. Whenever the Israelis massacre Palestinians in the past, you might get Arab Israelis, Palestinian Israelis, to protest. They might go into the streets and hold up signs. What's happening now is Israelis, Jewish Israelis, are now hunting the Arab Israelis. They're attempting to lynch them. They've lynched one guy now.
Yeah.
And now the Arab Israelis are like, screw you, and they're fighting back. So this isn't just a war. This is now turning into a civil war. And it's also that shithead Netanyahu, who is like Trump, can stay in power. He doesn't care about his own people. He's corrupt as hell. He should have been removed from office because he's corrupt as hell, just like Trump should have. And now Israel's in trouble because like world opinion keeps turning against them. They're going to massacre a bunch of Palestinians. They're going to gain nothing from it.
Oh my God, this is awesome.
So
I'm loving this one. Great Britain is Palestine. Oh my God.
So my proposal is Austria. I mean, don't get me wrong. If we did Great Britain, I'd be good too, except not Scotland. They're like the Palestinians of Great Britain.
They are.
Yeah. I can't wait for them to get away from those English tyrants. Screw
and
them.
Northern Ireland.
And Northern Ireland. And, Wales and Gibraltar should go too.
Wales needs to learn to add a vowel.
Well, what can you do? So, Austria. Why didn't we do this to Austria? Why are the Palestinians the victims of Hitler? Why isn't Austria the victim? And for the record, I'm part Austrian.
Yeah.
I speak German. I lived in Germany. Like this is a major part of my identity. I just can't understand why the Palestinians have to suffer because,
Well,
by the way, it's Hitler and it's Jewish hatred because Israelis can't say Hamas for some reason because of the Ha doesn't exist. The human cost of the Israeli-Palestine conflict. I'm so sick of you with your Hamas. That's another crime against humanity.
My goodness.
What about the destruction of the Al Jazeera AP building?
Oh my God!
I mean,
they gave them warning.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that was a clear act of we are shutting the press down, right?
Absolutely.
And they used some sort of Hamas is using this as a terror base,
which is bullshit.
Right, exactly, because I think the news organizations would have figured that out.
Yeah, right.
So now apparently these people are trying to work from their homes, but so how do we find out what the hell is going on now? I mean, which was obviously their purpose, but what are we going to do now? I guess people just stay on the ground there, like in any war zone.
Well, in the case of Gaza, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole strip is that a map over on the left of the places the Israelis are attacking? There's a
Where?
It's a map of
here,
blue dots.
yes.
I don't know what that is. It looks like a map of the places the Israelis are attacking.
Reported.
Oh yeah, it shows where the bombs are coming down. The whole thing is populated. It would be like you're bombing a city. No matter where you drop the bomb, it's going to hit a building. There's little patches of empty space, but for the most part, it's populated. By the way, if you look at this on a satellite map, you will see that Gaza is just brown, but the border on the other side, it's green. It's lush because the Israelis have pumped the Jordan River dry and they fertilized the deserts. And so when the Palestinians who are barely making it are looking across the wall at what used to be their land, they see this lush, green, verdant, productive land while they're being bombed in their homes.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. And then where do you go, right? They said, well, we gave them an hour in warning.
Yeah.
It's like, well, with all these checkpoints and everything else they have to go through. Yeah, how do people get out of that?
I mean, you can't get out. It's walled off.
You can't get out.
They'll shoot you.
And they're hitting everywhere. Where are you going? That's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Exactly right. Mm-hmm.
An hour to go where?
It's like fish.
And with kids, with family, with people of all kind of people with disabilities, people what I mean.
It seems like war crimes to me. I don't know why there's no.
Not just to you, Susie.
It doesn't seem like.
Well, nobody calls me, do they?
I mean, here's the thing, and I keep saying this, and maybe I'm being insensitive, but even the dogs in Israel have rights. I mean, in the United States, the dogs have the SPCA. The Palestinians have no rights. They don't have human rights. Forget human liberty. Forget civil rights. They have no human rights. They are randomly killed, indiscriminately slaughtered. Their land was taken from them. Their homes were taken from them. And the whole world...
Not taken, is being taken.
And still being taken. And the whole world turns a blind eye to this. The United States, Biden is like, why can't you not do this?
Oh, I can't stand him. Yeah, his response is horrible. So horrible. It's even sided. They have a right to defend themselves.
Yeah, there's two sides.
Like, that's ridiculous. Most ridiculous thing
and
ever.
then there's
Okay.
And then Orientalism plays a part in this as well, right? We have to pretend that this is a millennia-long conflict.
Yeah, it's
inevitable. Just how things work in the Middle East, right? This is just
it's all about religion.
It's all
about
been like
religion.
Yeah, the Bible says that this is never going to end. So what are you going to do?
In 1948, to today. That's the entirety of human history.
It's Judeo-Christianity against Islam.
Even though
Always.
there are
always.
Jewish Palestinians and there are Christian Palestinians. And genetically, Palestinians are Jewish. Their ancestors converted to Christianity and Islam. So that's the level of the anti-Semitism involved here, is that actually convert Europeans are murdering the actual genetic descendants of the Jewish population to steal their land to create white colonies in the Middle East.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, what can we expect of Biden, right? He is the president of a white settler colony with a certain history, all of this. How could he in any world call out Israel for these particular
I can't
crimes?
even comprehend that. What would that look like?
Well,
And he's a Christian himself.
Would it look
so.
like South Africa?
well, outgoing John Kerry did it. Carter has done it.
Yeah, but as an ex-president.
I understand, but it's fucking time to step the motherfucking up.
I want to point out,
It is. It really
even
is.
though Reagan didn't want to do this, and he's recorded calling Africans monkeys, he talked, there's a recording with Nixon where Reagan says, those monkeys. Even though that's the case, he did finally, after a lot of browbeating and pressure, decide to go ahead and do the anti-apartheid work. Even though he was a deeply profound racist. So even if Joe Biden really does truly in his heart absolutely hate and wish all Arabs would die, maybe he could still stand up and be at least as good a man as Reagan.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
we
So
have Ayanna Pressley even gave a good speech in Congress. We're talking about, hey, we need to look at this funding that we're giving Israel and put this on the table. You know what I mean?
Everyone
If we're
should
gonna
watch
do
that.
I think we should call the show at Roy Casagrande heroizing Reagan.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah.
Or either that, or I'm letting Biden know what a scumbag he is right now.
Yeah. Mhm.
Exactly.
Sooner or later.
Right.
Sooner or
Reagan
later.
1, Biden 0.
Yeah.
By the way, it took crazy browbeating and pressure from the Republican Party to get Reagan to do it. So just for the record, Reagan did it kicking and screaming the whole way. He
Mhm.
really wanted to back the apartheid government.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. All of this has real human costs. 1 in 3 refugees worldwide are Palestinian refugees. And the cost is borne by, other countries in the Middle East for the most part, right? It's not like this refugee. I hate all the rhetoric around the refugee crisis in Europe. What are y'all accepting? What, 5,000, 10,000, debating over 200 in the United States annually? How many do we accept?
Well, there are some states in Europe that aren't complete douchebags, like Germany and Sweden, for example.
But look at the numbers, right? Compared to Turkey or Jordan.
Well, but you got to remember, Turkey is a lot bigger than Sweden. So 10% of Sweden is now refugee. Not what is Turkey's population? It is definitely not 10% of Turkey that's refugee.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but Turkey obviously is a lot poorer than Sweden. So it's remarkable that Turkey has let in as many refugees as it has. But what choice did it have? In the case of Sweden, they're so isolated. The fact that they've let in 1 million refugees is really something.
Mhm.
But you're right. Like, what about Britain and France and the United States? There is a town in Sweden of 60,000 people that's half refugee. It has 30,000 refugees. That's more refugees than from Syria and Iraq that the United States and Great Britain combined have taken it.
That's incredible. Oh my God, that's tragic.
It's one town in Sweden. So there are some states on earth that aren't complete shithead countries. But most of them are. You're right. And I think Turkey now has the highest refugee population. Is that what this chart is that you're looking at?
It's
Right now it's sorted by refugees per 1,000, but now it is sorted by refugees in total. And yeah, Turkey at
Is
like
number 1.
3.6
And then of course
million.
Jordan, which is like what, 2/3 refugee.
And yeah, I think these
That's not
numbers also
really
don't count descendants of refugees, right? Because now you have 2nd, 3rd generation refugee folks as well. Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, it's
per 1,000.
per 1,000.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Well,
I
right
think
now,
that I think they must be
11.
including.
So look at Germany, look at Lebanon, look at Jordan.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So at
Who's
the
the
end of
point-
the day,
you're right. Germany just isn't carrying its weight. But then look at the United States. 0.
I mean, let's
0.84.
not go there, shall we? Yeah.
I mean,
Who's
thank God there's a China.
0.84?
What?
Who's the 0.84? 0.22. Thank God there's a China.
Thank God there's a China. Well, China is now building solar panels with slave Uyghur labor. So
Right.
if you're an environmentalist, you have to ask yourself, let the earth burn to the ground or slave labor?
And slave labor, yeah.
Yeah, that's neat. I think half of the solar panel components now are built with Uyghur slave labor.
That was really good, Ramesh.
Thanks.
Yeah,
for
thank you.
always bringing it home, keeping
Right.
it real.
I wish the I wish the podcast folks could see it, but let me now take this time to direct you towards our YouTube channel, which you can find under the Austin School.
Mhm.
Thank
So
you.
go to youtube.com, search the Austin School, and you will find the Red Peace Machine and its many episodes.
That's right.
All right, final parting thoughts, y'all. May 16th, stormy day, stormy topic, and we'll see how things settle. Mhm. Bring an umbrella.
Okay.
Bring an umbrella.
Bring an umbrella. And your rain boots, because it's going to get muddy.
I
And
almost said
musty.
musty.
And musty.
Hey,
And
I
musty.
hate that
Yeah.
word. No. That's
Yeah.
my final thought. Don't use the word musty or moist. Don't like it.
All right.
My final thought is we should end war and genocide. It's 2021.
Yeah.
You made my final
Maybe
thought
throwing
sound like
slavery
shit.
too. Let's end that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
End war,
thanks.
genocide, and then end war, genocide, and also just the standing around and watching it happen.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
also really bad too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Musty and moist. Musty and moist.
Dr. Madaninejad, parting thoughts from you.
Yeah. It's just I don't know. I'm looking forward to a truth and reconciliation meeting between the people,
Palestinians and Israelis.
Palestinians and folks who have occupied Palestine. I want them to get together and yeah, and we have a model. We have a model. We have the South African model. Let's fucking do this.
One state
All right,
solution.
everyone.
Make a secular democracy. Be done with it.
Yeah.
With minority protections in place.
Let's fucking do this, as
I mean,
Dr.
like for example, you
Madaninejad.
could have a Supreme Court that's 1/3 Christian, 1/3 Jewish, 1/3 Muslim, so that nobody dominates it. So you have to work together. You could have a Senate and a House. The House by population, the Senate, make it 1/3 Christian, 1/3 Muslim, 1/3 Jewish. Who cares? Just
Have we
build
seen
in
that work
safeguards.
before?
What?
So we could also allow a Christian president, a Muslim prime minister, and so on and so forth. That works effectively, right? Very
Well, it
beautiful
has
functioning
issues.
government.
It doesn't work great all the time.
I'm not.
But you know, Lebanon is
Consociationalism works. It works.
it's bumpy, but it works.
Okay.
Everything's bumpy. Look at us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're like
We're the joke of the world now.
The wheels are coming
the example
off.
of bumpy.
Yeah.
And the wheels are coming off, people.
Yeah.
This is not,
And we're in the ditch.
Yeah.
All right,
Wheels in the ditch.
Mixed metaphors. It is stormy and it is bumpy. Bring your umbrellas and your
it's
shock
moist.
protectors.
It's moist.
And it's moist and musky.
Ass voice.
All right. This
Moist,
has been
musky.
RPM, Red Peace Machine. Keep it moist, keep it musky, and take care,
Damn
y'all.
it.
Bye.
Bye.
I remember this recording.